everyone. In our last chapter, we read about DJ. DJ was just a student who came to school one day and he had the biggest smile on his face. He just couldn't stop smiling. And because he was smiling so much, he was making everyone else around him smile. And they were all getting so happy that they all started laughing. And they didn't even know why they were laughing or why DJ was so happy. But it made them in a really good mood. So, and then things got a little goofy again, as they happen too often in this story, where they said that the walls were laughing and the desks were jumping up and down, and things that can't really laugh or smile were all so happy. And so at the end, they were still trying to figure out, why is DJ laughing, or why is he smiling? Why is he so happy? And he had a really good point at the very end of the chapter. He said, you need a reason to be sad. Usually if you're sad, oh, it's because this happened, or someone said this, or whatever. So you have a reason to be sad. He said, you don't need a reason to be happy. It's good to sometimes you just feel happy. So I liked that message. And I hope you all are happy. So let's read our next chapter. Our next chapter is about John. We're on chapter 17 already. All right, let's learn more about John. John had light brown hair and a round head. He was Joe's best friend. John was one of the smartest boys in Mrs. Jewell's class. But he had one problem. He could only read words written upside down. Nobody ever wrote anything upside down, but it was only a little problem. John was still in the high reading group. He just turned his book upside down. It was easier for John to turn his book upside down than to learn to read correctly. But the easiest way isn't always the best way. Mrs. Jewell said, John, you can't go on reading like this. You can't spend the rest of your life turning your books upside down. Why not? Asked John. Because I said so, said Mrs. Jewell. Besides, what happens when I write something on the blackboard? You can't turn the blackboard upside down. No, I guess you're right, said John. I know I'm right, said Mrs. Jewell. You're going to have to learn to stand on your head. John couldn't stand on his head. He had given up trying. You would have too, if you had fallen over as many times as he had. Joe was John's best friend. He could stand on John's head. Every time John fell over, Joe stood on his head. After all, what are friends for? My head is too round, Mrs. Jewell. I can't stand on it, said John. Of course you can, John, said Mrs. Jewell. If Joe can stand on your head, so can you. It's easy, John, said Joe. I can't, John repeated. I always fall over. Nonsense, said Mrs. Jewell. All you have to do is find your center of balance. Now, up you go. John put his round head on the floor and swung his legs up. He fell right over. Then Joe stood on John's head. See, John? It's easy. Nothing to it, Joe said. We'll help you, John, said Mrs. Jewell. Joe, get off John's desk and get me the pillow from under my desk. Nancy, Kelvin, come here and give us a hand. Mrs. Jewell took the pillow from Joe and set it on the floor. All right, John, we'll surround you, she said, which means they'll go around him. We won't let you fall. John put his head on the pillow and swung his legs up. He started to fall one way, but Nancy pushed him back up. Then he started to fall another way, but Kelvin straightened him out. John kept falling a little bit this way and a little bit that way, until at last he found his center of balance. Ooh, and this is kind of a goofy part of the story because the next part is written upside down. I'll show you on the screen, but that it looks like this. But I'm going to have to turn my book upside down in order to read it. Hey, look at me, said John. I'm up. I'm really up. I'm standing on my head. I found my center of balance. It's beautiful. I can read the blackboard. Hey, Kelvin, bring me a book. And you don't have to turn it upside down. Ha ha, hey, hoo, ah! All right, it's back to normal now. Bam! While Kelvin went to get the book, John fell flat on his face. You better stay off my head, Joe, he warned. Are you all right, John? Asked Mrs. Jules. Yes, I think so. I feel a little funny. Hey, I can still read the blackboard. And I'm not upside down. I can read right side up now. When I fell, I must have flipped my brain or something. That's wonderful, John, said Mrs. Jules. Here, put the pillow back under my desk. As a reward, you may have a Tootsie Roll Pop. They are in the coffee can on top of my desk. John placed the pillow on top of her desk. Then he looked under her desk, but he couldn't find the Tootsie Roll Pops anywhere. So he was putting things back on the opposite of where she told him to. So although his brain might have flipped back over or whatever happened so he could read right side up now he was going to start getting confused about what meant on top and what meant under. So there's our chapter about John. In our next chapter, we're going to be reading about Leslie.